Shalom, 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 yasha'Allah. This your boy, Bahasham wa Allah, back at you with another quick edifying video. Today's lesson is going to be called, Let the Woman Learn in Silence with All Subjection. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. All right, first and foremost, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say, Halal, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahawah, and his only begotten Son's name, who you ignorantly call Jesus, whose name is Yahawashi. All right, and the Holy Spirit, which is the Rawchaa Qadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who have ruled well through the Spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days, and has pushed this gospel and this truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days. A mighty shalom. Another mighty shalom to all you Akim out there laboring on the highways and on the hedges and on the unicorn, which is this internet, pushing this 100% doctrine, this 100% truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days. A mighty shalom to you all as well. All right, like I said, today's lesson is going to be called, Let the Woman Learn in Silence with All Subjection. All right, and this just comes from a comment that, and I believe it's a sister, right? The thing is, Yahawah's daughter, right, left on, one of my lessons that I did. And it was in regards to Guerrilla Hebrew. All right, it was called, He That Is Unjust, Let Him Be Unjust Still. And, this is just another reason, man. Just, be quiet. Stay off the comment boards, right? Unless you have a legitimate question, right? Be quiet, right? Because you don't know what you're talking about. All right? And so this was the comment. It says, this is the result of you guys not dividing the word of truth, telling people we are only what our fathers is. Meanwhile, and here's a Yah Israelite. Meanwhile, Yah told us he is saving a bloodline. This gorilla guy is a tear described by Hamashiach. Both of our parents have to be an Israelite to preserve the bloodline. See, and this is just, like I say, these are perfect examples of just why, women just be quiet, man. All right, because you err not knowing the scriptures. Okay, just be quiet and listen. All right, and so it's crazy, right? I looked up bloodline. All right, I just looked it up in the thing, and what comes up, right? The generations of Yahawashi Hamashiach, right? And where does that go through? The father's seed line, and of course, it also brought up Numbers 1 and 18. Okay, so what I want to do, right? I just want to go over a couple of scriptures, okay? Just go over a couple of scriptures, but, this is, and I did a lesson yesterday, that a lot of people truly don't believe these scriptures, all right? And a lot of women don't believe, all right? When you get into scriptures, and they might think they know they're Israelites, this, that, and the other. When you tell them stuff like they need to learn in silence, right? A woman should be a keeper at home, right? They don't want to hear that. No. That's old times, right? They don't really believe in these scriptures, man, right? And this is a perfect example, right? And just not knowing the scriptures, and that's why it's just best to just be quiet. All right. What is that? Matter of fact, let's go to the book of Matthew. All right. And go to the book of Matthew. Matter of fact, let me go to this one here real quick. Salakia. Right. But a lot of you women, just be quiet, man. And shout out to you women, man, who are obedient, right, and followers of the gospel, followers, right, of your head. Okay. Let's go to Matthew, right, chapter 22 and verse number 29. All right. It says, Yahawashi answered and said unto them, Ye do err, not knowing the scriptures, nor the power of the Most High. All right. And these are just perfect examples, right? This is a perfect example right here of someone who errs in not knowing the scriptures. Okay. Talking about, you have to have a bloodline of your mother and your father. That's not true. That's not biblical. Okay. That is not biblical. All right. And, we understand that, Gorilla Hebrew, right? He's an Israelite. All right. We know that, and the Lord dealt away with him. Okay. Because he wasn't diligent, and he wasn't serious about it. All right. And the Lord can take away that wisdom, knowledge, and understanding from you. Okay. Like Revelation said, you can blow out your candlestick, man. All right. But you err not knowing the scriptures. Okay. You err not knowing the scriptures. All right. And I want to get just touch on the one point, right? I'm going to touch on both points, right? This is Numbers chapter 1 and verse 18. All right. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after the families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward by their polls. All right. So ultimately, we declare our pedigree through what? Through our fathers, not our mothers. Right. And it's a simple thing. We break it down. But if you don't have eyes to see and ears to hear, you're not going to get it. But it's a very simple thing. I did a lesson maybe a couple weeks ago. Right. It was a sister who, her daddy was a Jake. Right. And her mama was a Edomite. Right. And, she was battling going, because they were saying that she was half this, half that. And we know that's not the case, man. Right. You are who your father is. OK. And you come from your father's lineage. Right. So when I typed in bloodline, of course, you've seen it took you to what? To Matthew. Right. Matthew 1:1. Right. And when you go to that, what is that? Yes, Yahawashi's, lineage. And what does it do? It lists the forefathers. All right. Because your father is the one that carries the seed. All right. And a lot of you, I know a lot of you, you sisters, man, right? Y'all hate to hear that, man. That, and Elder Apostle Tahar brought it out, and other, elders have brought it out. Like, you really don't need the women, all right, to build back this nation, all right? Because guess what? Through our seed, we can bring back the whole nation, all right? You don't have to have the Israelite woman to bring back the nation, but you need the Israelite man. Why? Because he carries the seed. All right. And the scriptures talk about it. Numbers 1:18 is that example. All right. The house of is according to the house of your fathers. All right. Otherwise, hey, they would have said it was, the house of Rachel and Leah, according to the house of your mothers. Right. But we know that's not the case. Salakia, there's the sign right there. Right. So this is a perfect example of you not knowing these scriptures, man. You not understanding and knowing these scriptures. All right. And you sitting here, and you call the man a tear. Right. And I want to get that. I want to get that account. So let's go to the book of Matthew real quick. All right. And this is why listen, just be quiet. Right. Don't get on comment boards with your opinion. Nobody wants to hear it, man. Right? Let's start at verse 30. Let's see. Nope. We'll start at verse 24. All right. We'll start at verse 24. And we're going to come down a little bit. Salakia. All right, Salakia. All right, so let's read this. Matthew chapter 13 and verse 24. It says the parable of the wheat and the tares. Okay. It says another parable put he forth, right, talking about Yahawashi, unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. It says, but when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servant of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then have it tares? He said unto them, an enemy have done this. The servant said unto him, will thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let them both grow together until the harvest, and in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, and bind them into bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. All right, and Yahawashi broke down the parable, right? When you go to verse number 37, right? It says, he answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. It says, the field is the world, Salakia. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. Okay. And it says, those are the wheat. Okay. It says, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. All right. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. Okay. But it says the tares, right, are the children of the wicked one. Well, who's the wicked? All right. And it said it was an enemy, right, that did this, right? You go to Psalms. Let's get this real quick. The book of Psalms 83, right? And let's see. I'll start at verse number 3. It says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. It says they have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. It says, for they have consulted together with one consent, and they are confederate against thee. Okay. Matter of fact, verse 2, it says, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult. All right. And they that hate thee have lifted up thy head. All right. So this is talking about the enemies of what? Of the Heavenly Father and of the children of Israel. All right. Or the children of God. Okay. So it says, jumping down to verse 6, it says, the tabernacles of Edom. All right. Who is Edom? Esau. All right. That's the point I want to get, right? It says, and the Ishmaelites and Moab and the Hagarenes. All right. But it says the first person on that list is the Edomites, or Edom. Okay. So it said in the parable that an enemy have sowed these tares. Okay. And it said, who had did it? The sons of the wicked one. All right. Well, who is the wicked? Let's go to the book of Malachi. Right. Malachi chapter 1 and verse number 4. All right. It says, whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness. Who? Edom, Esau. All right. Our enemy. All right. It says, and the people against whom Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi have indignation forever. Okay. So the wicked one, right, is Esau. All right. So the tares are, those who come from the lineage of their forefather Esau. All right. Because what? Your lineage is based, your blood is based upon your father's seed, who your father is. You plant a seed in Japan, right? Guess what? An apple seed in Japan is going to be an apple seed. You plant an apple in uh, in Germany, it's gonna be an apple seed. All right, it's not gonna be a German seed. It's gonna be an apple seed. It's gonna be an apple. Whatever seed is planted is what it is. It doesn't matter what the ground or where we're talking about. All right. So I know women hate to hear that. It doesn't matter. All right. If an Israelite man puts his seed into a Edomite woman, guess what? That baby is an Israelite. 100%. All right. If an Edomite puts his seed into a Israelite woman, guess what? That is an Edomite. 100%. Doesn't matter. All right. They can look whatever type of way. It does not matter. All right. It's what your father's seed is at the end of the day. All right. All right. And so that the tear is talking about Edomites. All right. And his father, right? He's talked about it many times. His father is Haitian, man, is Levi. All right. So this is, but this is why, you should just be silent, right? Because you err not knowing these scriptures, man. All right. What does the scripture say? Ecclesiastes 5, verse number 1. It says, the folly of rash vows. It says, keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of the Most High, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. It says, be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before the Most High, for the Most High is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few. Right? And you women, hey, you need to be a few words, man. You need to be a few words. All right? Scriptures tell you, man. What is that? And see, you voice your opinion on somebody's post and you don't even know what you're talking about, man. All right? This is the book of Sirach, or Ecclesiastes chapter 26 and verse 14. It says, a silent and loving woman is a gift of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, and there is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. Okay, just be silent, right? That's the best thing you can do, right? If you want to say something, like I say, if you want to ask a question, and if it's genuine, right? But don't get up on these comment boards and just start to base your own pointless, vain, meaningless opinions. All right. What did Job say? Salak here. Job said, what is that? Let me get what is that? Salak here. Let's go to the book of Job 2, verse number 10. Right? And I just want to, the first part of it, right? It said, but he said unto her, right? Because Job's wife was talking, crazy out of her mouth, right? It says, but he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh, right? And that's how you're speaking right now, right? Aaron not knowing the scriptures, man, not knowing what's going on, all right? Thinking that you have to have an Israelite man and an Israelite woman to have a bloodline. That's not the case, all right? Yahawah Shemashai is not the author of confusion, right? And I did a lesson on this. Like I said, you got people in the world, you're half this, 20% this, you're this, that. No, you are who your father is, all right? Your father carries the lineage. You have people who look like Moab, right? Or Chinese. And guess what? Their lineage goes back to Jacob or Israel. They're Israelites according to their father. Okay? Like it's not hard. All right? But Job chapter 2 verse 10 again it says, but he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What, shall we receive good at the hand of the Most High, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. Okay? And, at the end of the day, ultimately you should be getting your husband to teach you, right? If you don't have a husband, hey, then just be quiet, all right? Because listen, a lot of you, like I said, a lot of you women, you don't believe, man. You might have on the long dress. You might even have some fringes on or whatever, all right? But you truly don't believe. Your mindset is still corrupted, man, all right? Your mind is still corrupted, and you truly don't believe these scriptures, man. Yahawashi said, I come in the volume of the book. All right. Who taught Paul? Right? Yahawashi taught Paul. All right. It says, what did I want? Just want to get a couple. Let's go to 1 Timothy. All right, we must bring these out. 1 Timothy 2. And we'll start at verse number 9. It says, in like manner also, that the woman adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness, and sobriety, not with braided hair, or gold, or pearls, or costly arrays. It says, but which becometh women professing godliness with good works. It says, let all women learn in silence with all subjection. All right. It says, but I suffer not a woman to teach, nor assert authority over the man, but be in silence. It says, for Adam was first formed, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. It says, notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing if she continue in the faith and charity and holiness with sobriety. Okay? So let the woman learn in silence. Okay? All right? And suffer not a woman to teach. See, and this is what happens when you try to teach somebody something. Right? You go off because you don't know. You don't know, right? Talking about Yah. Right? Come on, man. Like, just sit down somewhere. Just sit down and be quiet. All right? Let me get one more. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have a couple more Salak here. Just bear with me. If you don't like it, you can get off. You ain't gotta listen. This is Ezekiel chapter 34 and verse number 31. It says, and ye, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men, and I am your power, saith Yahawah Bahasham outside thy power. Okay? So the flock of the pastors are men. Okay? And when we go to the order, right? And we have to continue to go to the order. I guess even with people who know they're Israelites, we still have to bring it out. Right? Salakia. 1 Corinthians 11 and 3. It says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is the Most High. All right? So don't, sit up and try to, think that you know everything, man. All right? Just sit down. Be quiet. Listen. All right? Listen to the edification. All right? Let's go to, we're going to stay in 1 Corinthians. Let's go to verse 14. Let's go to verse number 34. Matter of fact, we could start at verse 33. All right. It says, for the Most High is not the author of confusion, but of peace. All right. And you're bringing confusion right now. Right. When you think about it. Right now, that's what you're doing, So understanding, what's going on. Right. And you have no understanding. And that's why you will open your mouth and utter out, stupid stuff, But it says, for the Most High is not the author of confusion. It says, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. It says, let your women keep silence in the churches, for it is not permitted unto them to speak, but they are commanded to be under obedience, as also saith the law. And if they will learn anything, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is a shame for a woman to speak in the church. It says, what? Came the word of the Most High out from you, or came it unto you only? All right. It says, if any man, right, think himself to be a prophet or spiritual, let him acknowledge that the things that I write unto you, that they are the commandments of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. Okay. And this is, people, they got to understand this, man. Right. And a lot of people, they don't get it. All right. These are the words, right, of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. All right. And we know that Paul was taught by who? By Yahawashi. All right. Let's go to Titus. Titus chapter 2 and verse number 3. We'll start at verse number 3. It says, the aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of the Most High be not blasphemed. All right. So I ask you, are you doing that? Are you doing that? Are you doing it so that the word be not blasphemed? So be quiet at the end of the day. Listen. All right. If you have a question, and if it's, sincere, and if I have an answer, boom. If not, I'll lay my hand over my mouth. All right. Like you should do. Right. If you don't know the answer, the scriptures tell you, if you don't know, lay your hand over your mouth. Right. You should be silent. But you err not knowing these scriptures. All right. So I just wanted to do this quick lesson. Lord's will, this was edifying, right? But with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say, Call Halal Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash. Peace and blessings to the elect of the 12 tribes scattered abroad. A mighty shalom to the 144,000 men. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who have ruled well through the Spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days. Another mighty shalom to the rest of the elect out there. Stay diligent, stay focused, right? And shout out to you sincere women, all right, who are in order, who are obedient, right? And not out here just babbling at the mouth, all right? Not knowing these scriptures, okay? But with that, I say a ball, and shalom.